All right. You all set, Madam Chair?
Okay, good evening. This open meeting of the Sturbridge Finance Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 2020 due to the current state of emergency due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. To mitigate the transmission of the virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location, and all members are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda meeting materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting of the Finance Committee, we are convening by GoToMeeting as posted on the town website identifying how the public may join. And you should be able to see us on your TV or your computer, and we will now open the meeting. All 9 members are present and accounted for. We have to call those out. We also have tonight with us Annie Rossielli from Recreation Committee. Let's see. Is Becky in here from the library? I'm not sure.
Becky, are you here?
I'm here. Can anybody hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Now the facilities, Robbins, whose last name I can't remember or pronounce, and the police chief, Tom Ford, and I believe your lieutenant, is it Tom, who's here with you?
Yes, Lieutenant Dessert.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we are going to start again with the budget. We're going to jump around a little bit. Thought that we would take recreation first because it's a fairly small budget, so we will also go to her recreation. I believe they have some betterment requests. So we'll also go. And Jim, you are the liaison.
What page are you on, Kathy?
Oh, I'm sorry. Page 11. At the bottom of page 11 is recreation.
So I'll just make a few comments to open, and then I'll leave it to Annie. But there's not a heck of a lot here. If you look at the salary line for Annie's salary, she's been increased from 30 to 35 hours a week, which is full-time, and that position, as far as I'm aware, has now become a department head salaried position. It's now an exempt position. Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong.
It will be 35 hours, but hourly at this point till we finish the classification and compensation study.
Okay, so it remains hourly.
Yes.
Okay, but the bulk of the increase in the salary is the increase from the 30 to the 35 hours. Over and above that, if you want to do the arithmetic I did, it's not a significant number over and above that. So although the increase looks like it's a big number, that's deceptive. The other thing there is under the purchase of services, I'll just mention that the biggest component there, and you can go to the breakdown on the detailed budget, but the biggest breakdown there is a line item. It's over $1,100 additional expense for porta potties for the field. Other than that, the budget is pretty much in line with what we had last year. And I'll stop there and let Annie jump in if she'd like to. Leave it open for questions.
Sure, thank you, Jim.
Okay, Annie.
In addition to the 2 points that Jim mentioned for our increases, we also just have a couple really minor ones. The will have an increase this upcoming year. We have a minor increase in our advertisement and the cost for the printing of our content slides.
Let's see. How about questions? Larry.
Kathy, I have one other comment. Can I make one other comment? There will be there was an issue, and Annie didn't get into it, but, and Jeff probably knows, I know he knows, I watched the meeting last night. There was an issue with the lighting for the ball field, and, there was, some, deficiencies found at the site where they had to remedy or correct, they were gonna have to correct the, foundations for the lighting poles, and at the same time, the subject came up that the quote was for metal halide lighting, which is a 1980s technology. And the way to go now, and Annie and I discussed this, the way to go now is with LED lighting. The life expectancy of LED lighting is 8 to 10 times the bulb life. The expense, the cost of the electricity to run them is substantially less. Overall, it's a better deal. But because of these changes, and Annie can explain it in greater detail, the bid we had to be increased, and it increased to the point where it negated everything, and it has to go out for bid again. And she's going to pursue that. I believe, Andy, you're pursuing that with TPC to get additional funding. It's going to be through a warrant article, but you might want to elaborate on that before we open it for more questions.
Yes, that's correct. So we did request to be on CPC's agenda because they were funding the project originally. So the pricing increase we are requesting through CPC. So waiting to hear back, but then we would be hoping to move forward to bring this to town meeting, and then ultimately the project would need to be rebid.
Okay, so why don't we go to questions on the budget itself, which page 37 in the detail if you want to look at that. Larry, would you like to start with other questions?
I have no questions.
All right. Good.
Nothing.
I don't have any questions.
With that?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, Joni?
You don't have any questions?
Jim, you already spoke. Mike?
Yeah, it's not really recreation related, but I see we still have a trash dumpster line item in here, and I thought we had talked that most of those were being consolidated into a single line item in the end. Is this one that did not make that consolidation process?
I was speaking with the facilities coordinator on that. This request was put in before we knew about the consolidation process. So I actually need to follow up with Robin because I am not sure if this is included in that or not for this first year.
Well, Robin is on the call. If she could answer that one.
Robin, did you hear the question?
Robin's on mute.
She's either on mute or walked away for a moment. So, right, it's a small amount of money, but none. There she goes.
Second.
It's a small amount of money, but again, it's part of the cleanup as we go through. If it was part of that, we could fix it. If not, it needs to get picked up next time around. But I don't have any other issues on the rest of the budget.
Robin's back.
Okay. Is Robin back? Okay, Robin?
Robin, can you hear us? Okay. We'll save that question.
Can you hear
why don't
me?
Oh, there she is.
Okay. Oh, there's a trick to this. Okay. We have enough in the central purchasing line item to cover this $562 if we needed to. I would just coordinate with Annie at the time she needs this temporary dumpster because it is only for several months for the rec area for summer camp. So it's a very small amount. We do have a month to cover it in central if we need to.
Okay. Kevin, questions?
Yeah, it's more for Jeff, I guess. I'm just curious again about is this position intended to be treated as a department head? I know Jim asked, but you said you were waiting on their report. But if the report comes back and says she should be full-time, et cetera, will this be treated as a department head, and then will we have to adjust the merit pool?
I believe this position is already in the merit pool.
Yes, it is.
And she is the only employee in that department, so she's kind of a department head. And she's in charge of all the programs, in charge of all the lifeguards, in charge of all the seasonal staff. It's a pretty heavy-hitting operation for her in terms of events and responsibilities. And limiting her to 30 hours a week makes it difficult for her to get the job done and to plan. So I would like to have her at 35 hours a week just so she can do even more for the citizens of the community in terms of recreation and coordination of those activities.
So it'd be more correct to classify this as a salary than an hourly rate, like was said earlier.
Well, again, we had that conversation, and until we get the survey back on what a salary for a recreation department head would be, similar, we're going to keep it at hourly because we know the hourly rate.
Okay, I get where you're going. You don't actually know if this is in the ballpark or not for a rec coordinator or rec director or whatever the position's called.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Bruce?
No questions, Madam Chair.
I did have a question or two, I guess, looking forward. Is there any indication whether or not the summer programs will go on this year?
So we are hoping to hear an update within the next 2 weeks. Mass Parks and Rec shared that we will have a little bit more guidance in terms of camps, which the summer program would follow, and Bible camp. Camps and other activities. Currently, with the closures we do have, any town property reservations are closed through the end of June, to June 29th. So we won't be having our June concert series. And the first week of the summer program wouldn't be taking place between the last week in June. But I'm trying to stay hopeful for July and August, and later the updates as they come.
Annie, we can barely hear you. Do you have a computer going and your phone going?
Just my phone.
Say again?
Just my phone.
All right, is your computer on? Are you?
I have the computer on for the visual, but my audio is only through call.
We can barely hear you.
All right, I ran to the other side of the house. Is this any better?
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Can you
hear my response?
Yeah. Can you talk about the events again, please?
Yes. So we are currently waiting to hear more guidelines from the state on summer programs and summer activities. Mass Parks and Rec shared that within the second week today, we should receive an update from the state for everything from activities to parks, waterfront. So our June activities are canceled, and we're staying hopeful for July and August, and waiting for the updates as they come.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Is that you, Karen, saying yes, or you just?
Nope.
Oh. Jim, are you ready to make a motion then?
I can get this thing off of mute. Yes, I'm ready to make a motion. Let's go back to
Page 11.
page 11. Okay. We'll make a motion that we recommend to town meeting the budget as presented for the recreation department. You just need the bottom line number?
Yes.
totaling $103,956.
There a second?
Second.
Who was that? I'm sorry,
Bruce.
Bruce?
Bruce,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right, roll call vote. Jim?
Kathy, before you start that, did we want to take the $562 out since we heard that it was able to be covered in the existing other line item we've already voted?
Yes. I would,
All right.
So Jim, do you want to amend your motion to 103,394, or do you want me to make a substitute motion?
So I'll amend my motion that we delete that line item and amend the amount to, what was it, 103,000? You did the arithmetic already, Mike?
103,394.
394?
103,394.
Okay.
Bruce needs to confirm his second.
Bruce, would you second that motion?
I will, Madam Chair, I second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Jim?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Joni?
yes.
And Kathy, yes. So that is 9-0. Okay, Annie, I believe you also have some betterment. Is that betterment budget going to be looked at again, Jeff and Barbara, or should we be going through it at this point?
Kathy, this is Mike. While they're also answering that, I mean, maybe they haven't moved it yet, but there are certainly some line items in here in betterment without looking at it specifically. We fund some concerts. I know we have some overtime budgets for police and fire for various events like Pan Mass Challenge and a few other things. And if for some reason those events don't happen, we won't spend the money. I'd like to understand what happens to that money, or we have the ability to change how we typically craft that article so that if things aren't held because we can't hold these events, the money's not spent the way it was delegated. Is there an opportunity to reallocate it to some other activities or purchases for police and fire that we didn't make the cut this year but could be used for those funds, so there's some flexibility versus turning that money back in?
Anybody want
That's
to
more
take
of a process question.
Jeff or Barbara?
I'll ask Barbara to talk
Can you just
about
pick-
how the funds are used and lapsed, and then I'll talk about what we're doing to look at the individual items due to the COVID issue. So Barbara?
So because we vote the budget very specifically with the specific line item, the funding that is voted at town meeting could only be used for those specific items. If an event didn't happen, we would have to go back to town meeting and reallocate the money voted for a specific item to another line item. Any funds that are not used at year end close back out into the general pot of money that basically then the following year gets split 50-50 between STA and betterment.
Yes. So Kathy, this is Mike again. So I hate to have money not spent go back. You know, we got, so many dollars. We didn't spend it. It goes back in the pot. And we only get half of it back the following year. So is there a way to look at how we word that article? I know we don't like fuzzy language in the end on these things, but as something in the end that says or other amounts as approved by the Betterment Committee throughout the year, in case money frees up and they could redirect it versus have it go in a pot and we lose half of it.
We're
Well, I
actually,
think it has to go to by town meeting. Go ahead, Jeff.
we're actually looking at that potential for the STA because we have some money in the current year that may not be spent. So we're looking at how how that money can be reallocated in the following fiscal year. You're talking about current year. So we're looking at those issues. We've not done that in the past as a town. So there has to be a comfort level on how that mechanism works, and there has to be an accounting mechanism on all that. So we are looking at those issues. Don't have an answer for you tonight, but certainly understand. I mean, the easiest thing to do would be allocate a lump sum and leave it up to the Betterment Committee to manage that through the year, but that is a huge change in paradigm for the town with these funds.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, which is why you could vote those and then just leave a little something in the end that says or is otherwise, whatever, and see how that plays out. So people have a specific list of what we want to fund and what's been asked to fund it. But if for some reason that they don't take place, we can start the process of getting the flexibility within the year to reallocate funds. So,
Kevin, I see your hand. I don't see everyone, but I do see you.
I'm going to sit back.
These funds come through state legislation. So we'd have to make sure that whatever we're trying to do, we match up with that law that lets us do these two things. So maybe the law requires very specific detail. I don't know. But we just have to make sure that we're in lockstep with it.
Jeff?
Yes, and I've had that conversation with town council, and we're reviewing that to make sure we're consistent with the special legislation that created both the Betterment and the STA funds.
Great.
I mean, one question is, as we get, if town meeting is at the end of June, which I believe you're now, can we look at this before town meeting and redivide it up? If we know by then, for example, that there is no contest on the common, there's no pan mass challenge, et cetera, can that be something that we could look at before and just have an amended motion at town meeting?
We would hope through the month of May, the budget picture gets clearer. As you've spoken at your last couple meetings, there are some things up in the air, and there will be some modifications needed to be made to the budget. We had that conversation last night with the Board of Selectmen as we worked through the warrants. So we would anticipate sometime in the month of May, some of these warrants having to come back in amounts adjusted. So you're looking at pre-COVID items which may need some adjustment before we get to publication for the town meeting.
Okay. All right, let's go right to the Betterment as it stands now. The first one is, I'm on page G3 here. Cedar Lake water treatment at the amount of $1,795. That's the usual amount, Annie?
Yes. There's no increase this year, actually.
Anybody have any questions on that one?
No.
No? Okay. I think we usually vote this at the very end, don't we? I don't even remember how we usually do that. We vote the Betterment all at once, I think. I think we really, I think this is just a time for questions. The next one is the Town Common Summer Concert Series of $4,000. Annie, how many concerts does that usually cover? Because you have sponsors, I know, for others.
So for this past season, it hosted 3 in 2019, and it would have hosted the first 2 of June this year.
Oh. So those were for the June ones, huh? So is this
2 for June, 3 for last summer. So 5, it would have been 5 total.
Oh, okay.
For the money you're looking at, those would fund June of 2021.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So that's next year. Oh, okay.
Correct.
Oh, so that amount really doesn't need to change at this point. Let's see, the next one is decorations for the town common, $3,600. That's for the winter Christmas season. Annie?
Yes, and that is going with the new company this year, and they were very accommodating. We've been working with in the past, and we received several quotes. One of them came in very competitively.
Oh, okay. Anybody have any questions on that? Next page is a new request for recreation is bleachers at Turner's Field. I believe that's a replacement for $5,150. So does this increase the number of seats, or is it just really just a straight replacement?
A replacement. One has already been replaced. One is still being brought in wooden bleachers with that green frame.
I'm sorry, I don't know if anybody else caught that, but I didn't catch all of that, Annie.
So that is to replace one bleacher down there. We had one bleacher already replaced, so there's two total.
Oh, okay. Anybody have any questions on that, on the bleachers?
So, Kath, I actually have a question going back to the decorations.
Yep, okay, go ahead.
So last year we had decorations from Betterment. Are they a rental or a purchase?
We purchase the service, but we don't own the material.
So we're paying for a company to set up their decorations and then come in and take out their decorations. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
The next one is soccer goals, and that's also a new request. This is 2 pairs of soccer goals for $9,285. And where would those be located, Annie? Which field?
Those would be for the town barn. We currently only have, I think we have the largest size goals down there. So the town barn hosts youth league practice. So this will just be to accommodate the leagues a little bit more appropriately because we have young divisions playing on pretty large frames.
Any questions on the soccer goal?
So I do, yeah. The 2 different sizes are for different age groups? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder if we wouldn't get bigger bang for our buck by buying 4 of them, or all the same size. Then you scatter them.
So these come in pairs, just to clarify.
Right. So, okay, 2 pairs of 6.5 by 18.5. Then they could be put to any field, anywhere, and basically accommodate any league.
That accommodates U9 and U10. And then we need a smaller frame for U8 and U6. We currently, on the town barn, have 8 by 24.
8 by 24, is that what you said?
Yes, that's what we currently have.
So then you limit the use of fields by the equipment to different age groups. Because the equipment is size, like you wouldn't want to put, I don't know, teenagers on the 6.5 by 12s. So they can't use that field.
They have the 8x24 there. This is for practicing. Currently, our town soccer league doesn't have anything appropriate for under U14 at the town bar.
I guess, is it a requirement that these leagues have smaller nets, or is it just a nice to have because they happen to be smaller sized individuals?
The request comes in from the U.S. Youth Soccer regulations. So while they're not playing games, currently we have a U8 and U6 practicing on an adult regulation size.
So this is Mike. So Annie, I think what he's saying is you're asking for different size nets because given the age groups that are using them, that's what they use. It's kind of like Little League, right? The young kids play on a field that's only 45 feet to the bases, while the teenagers play at a 60-foot. You're doing the same thing with the soccer nets. The younger children use the smaller size nets as they age and mature. They go to slightly larger fields and thus larger nets. And that's what you're trying to do is get a series of nets for each age group that would then allow them to use that field.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Jim, I have a question, Andy. Andy, I have a question. It's Jim. Are these movable? Are these portable goals?
Yes, the ones that I have quoted, we are definitely looking for ones with wheels. I believe that was the end goal.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. It's not coming clear. Could you say that again?
I believe that these ones that we have quoted are the ones that have the wheels, so they are portable.
So you can take a set of goals off the field and put a larger set or a smaller set of goals on the same field, depending on the age group that's playing.
Yes. Yes, they would just be moved to the side.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions on the soccer goal?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Bruce.
my question is there any kind of housing for them? A housing structure or a barn, or they're just going to be left out on the field?
In the off-season, they would be broken down and stored, and we have the trailers down there for the week.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have questions on this one, on the soccer goal?
Just one last one for me. So now I'm getting to get this. All 6 of these nets are at one field.
Yeah. Okay. And then if a league needed to move it, they would probably have the option. But currently, we only have one practice at in Sturbridge. In the nets that we have at the town barn, that's the size that adult players use, or U16, U18. So having all of these nets down there makes it so every age group can practice accordingly, and that field can only have probably the smallest age group actually playing games. But this way, a U6 or U8 is practicing on a smaller net versus practicing on a high school size and showing up to a game that they may not have really done before.
Mm-hmm. No, now I got you.
Okay, moving on to the last request, the softball shade protection canopy at $10,680, and that is at the town barn field.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Joni.
So, $10,000 for canopy. Are these, first of all, how are they set up? Are they permanent structures?
They are permanent structures. However, the actual canopy portion will be taken in during the winter and stored.
So can you describe what they are then, please? What's permanent? The post? which part of the canopy is permanent?
The columns.
So there are columns. Are there 4, 3, 2? Like columns go into the ground. Are they cemented into the ground?
I'm not sure if you have the quote in front of you, but there's two different options that they can go with. One of them was preferred, and there will be, this one is what, the 2 columns. And these are, this one's the 14 by 30. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the shade walk system at Burgess, just to give yourself a visual, but it's the same company and it's the same style that Burgess has used for their field.
I'm not familiar. So the canopies come off, and so this $10,000 to spend on canopies at a field, they are, does that include the installation?
No, that is not installation.
What would the installation be?
CPW is in coordination with me. So the 10,000 is furnished and delivered. So it does include delivery.
I'm sorry, I can't hear that. Can you just say that again, please?
The installation, we wouldn't be paying for through the company. We would be assisted by CPW on that. So the price in front of you is for furnished and delivered.
Okay, installation will be in-house. And then the storage of the canopies would be at wherever you store your stuff.
Correct. Yes. And Jeff Walker at Burgess has volunteered to teach us how to make sure when we're taking these off, we're taking them off correctly and storing them. Just so you are aware, I did make sure they were happy with the installments that they have.
Okay.
How long are those canopies expected to last, the canopies themselves?
I actually do not have that answer in front of me, but I would be happy to get it and email it to you tomorrow. Trying to see if I would have that here.
Do you know how much just the canopies would cost if they did have to be replaced?
That is something that I would want to follow up on, just because the quote in front of me doesn't break the canopy down individually.
Okay. Anybody else have any
I
further
do.
questions on any of the recreation?
I have a question on these shades, just as far as liability. It looks, you know, I was just looking these things up while we were doing it, and it's going to be shading, I guess, part of the field where they're batting and whatnot. So, you know, does this increase any of our liability costs as far as insurance or whatnot, since we're adding a new structure that's going to be covering the playing field? And I guess that would be more of a Jeff and Barbara question.
Yeah, I
I
don't know about how the shade will fall onto the field. Perhaps that's something Burgess had to address.
Andy, this is Jim. Am I mistaken? I thought in our conversation, these were going to cover the benches where the players sat, and they were more or less going to be like a fabric dugout. So the players who were
That's
seated
correct.
on the bench would be under a canopy, but it's not going to be on the playing field. It's going to be more or less like a fabric dugout. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
It's still sheltering people, you know, with the structure. I mean, you got to think if the structure fails, there's a liability impact. And I just want to know if we're covered for that.
We will make sure that the appropriate insurance is in place for these.
Okay. Any other questions? I honestly don't remember how we usually vote this. We usually at the end.
We usually vote at the end.
At the end, yeah, okay. Oh, wait, here it, never mind. I think we're all set then. Anything further for Annie before we let her go?
Yes, this is Mike. So we did pass an article at last town meeting to do a feasibility study for the rec facilities at 60 Cedar Street.
Correct.
I'm just curious as to what's taken place since last town meeting.
So since then, we have had the surveying of the property completed, and just last week we received our first concept plan. So that will be going to the rec committee for review, and then potentially moving forward if they're happy with some of the options that have been presented. But that project has been moving forward pretty smoothly.
So you completed the study. You have something in hand that committee can be looking at that identifies how much that land can be used for fields, what the various costs are for different configurations, and you're trying to, from there, figure out which one you prefer and want to move forward with?
Correct. We don't have the cost of each of the plans yet. If the committee favored more than one, I believe they would be able to ask when we go into the design and construction documents to compare one versus the other more so. But the end goal would be to pick one plan from, I believe we have 4 presented. And then moving forward with that, we would look into it in greater detail and end up with design and construction.
So Kathy, she's answered my questions nicely there, but I would just say that we always fund these studies, and then, things are happening in committees, and then we kind of see the end result when someone's trying to implement something in a final stage, but we kind of miss a lot of the in-between stuff, and so I would just ask, say, that'd be nice to see what that interim study looks like, so we at least have an update as to what the results are and kind of know what the committee's looking at. Same thing when we're looking at some of these other parcels and so forth. It'd be nice to see what the reports are looking like along the way versus we get at the tail end. So I guess my ask is that we could get a copy of that report just for interim informational purposes.
Kathy?
Yes. Yeah, Larry.
I'd like to respectfully disagree with Mike's request. There is a town administrator who is the town's chief operating officer. There is a board of selectmen, which is the town's chief executive officer. Town charter limits our authority as a finance committee. It is not for us, in my understanding of the role, to keep tabs unless asked to. And what if we keep tabs for information purposes, and what if we don't like what we see? What are we going to do about it anyway? So on a conceptual as well as a practical basis, I think we should be a little more humble and a little more circumspect in the execution of our responsibilities.
I'd like to echo Larry's comments, just add one thing. Our job is to present recommendations to the town meeting, and the only recommendation a town meeting's getting is the warrant article that's in front of them. That's what we should consider, what's being presented, and vote that up or down, and not whatever options weren't considered.
Is there going to be a warrant article on that, on the field, Jeff?
Not for this town meeting, no.
Okay. Well, that answers that then. Okay, let's move on. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to the library. Becky is still there, I hope?
I am.
Yes, and we need to get that library reopened for personal reasons, but it's nothing else. But I've run out of books, put it that way.
Fines and mounting?
Huh? What's that?
The fines and mounting?
Yeah. So this is on page C11, the library operations we're looking at first. And I believe, Larry, you have the library.
Yes, I do. The key percentage of 19% is protected in the proposed budget. The reason that figure is significant is that by maintaining that percentage, we assure that the State Board of Library Commissioners can consider grant proposals from the Joshua Hyde Library. Without that percentage, that is, with a lesser percentage, as far as the library commissioners are concerned in Boston, we are dead to them. So it is well that that figure is in there. Turning now to the substance, you'll find on page 36, the orange tab, the detailed budget. That the operational, not building, operational standpoint, because we have two budgets, one for the structure and one for what happens in the structure.
Right, we're just looking at operation right now. Yep.
That's right. The year-to-year change is a net increase of $1,095 exclusive of recognition of talent or compensation. Turn to that.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh, sound frozen, Larry. Well, Becky, you want to jump? Oh, there's Larry. He's back, I think. Larry, you froze up for a minute. Oh, we still can't hear him.
Pardon me?
But, yeah, you froze up for a minute there, so I don't know what you said, Larry.
Well, what's the last thing you heard?
The increase in the budget. It's the last thing I heard.
The increase in the budget.
It was $1,095 exclusive of talent.
Right.
Thank you. Now turning to compensation, recognition of talent. There is an increase of $15,839, of which $10,101 is proposed for the addition of a special events coordinator at 10 hours a week. You'll recall that that position was proposed and denied last year. This year, the proposal was resubmitted and then recommended not at 15 hours, but at 10 hours. That is 2/3, roughly, of the increase in talent. Of the $5,738 difference, that is $15,839 minus $10,101. That difference, by way of salary and wages increase exclusive of the library director, is spread across 17 staff members. With respect to the productivity, I would ask you to turn to Appendix A, and that would be on page 15 and 16. The library program coordinator, I said special events, library program coordinator is discussed on page 15, and you can read it for what the job entails. It is important to appreciate that from a productivity standpoint, the absence of that position has meant a significant drop in offerings and in participation by the public in those offerings. So it's ironic that we have an ambitious library and staff, ambitious for the public, not for themselves, And without the addition of $10,101, there is a disproportionate loss in productivity by way of program offerings, keeping in mind that approximately 2 of every 3 people who live in Sturbridge, including little tiny kids, 2 out of every 3 hold a library card for Joshua Hyde. So there is strong public interest. There are other very matters. There is some grouping of like things together. We've seen it in virtually every building where trash collection and so forth, or fire extinguisher costs are now being moved, keeping them together separately rather than the building by building. But basically, that is the operational budget, subject to any comments by the librarian, Becky Plimpton, and of course questions and comments by the Finance Committee, after which I'll be ready to submit a motion.
Okay, thank you. Becky, did you want to add anything?
No, thank you, Larry. That was pretty comprehensive.
Okay, let's see. Questions, Jared?
No questions.
Joni?
No questions.
Jim?
Yeah, I had a question. Just a point of information. I wasn't aware there were 17 employees, so I assume most of those employees are part-time working at the... Is there any prospect of adding these responsibilities to an existing employee and expanding their hours? Just an informational question.
Most of our part-time employees are either students, so this is really about as many hours as they want, or they're only looking for part-time work. There's a possibility of perhaps one employee that I can think of. It would, the addition of 10 hours would take her position up and over the 20-hour a week limit, I guess. So it would become a benefited position.
Well, the reason I mention it, I looked at the qualifications, and the qualifications are pretty advanced. And I was just curious if you were going to find somebody with those type of qualifications that only wanted 10 hours a week, as opposed to someone who might come in and do that job for 10 hours a week and complement that with other responsibilities that could bring them up to a higher income level. That was the point of my question.
It's true. That's a good point. I think that you know, we do, of our 17 employees, most of them are part-time, and what's kind of amazing is that 6 or 7 of our staff members all have master's degrees, even though some of them are only working 8 hours a week. So it is possible to find someone. I mean, if it were combined with another position and it became, you know, over 20 hours benefited position, of course, that would be more appealing. But I think that has issues of its own.
Okay, thank you, Becky.
Mike?
No questions.
Kevin?
None.
Bruce? Bruce?
I don't see Bruce here anymore. Oh, yeah, there he is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, gee.
Do you have any questions on the library operational budget?
No.
No? Okay. Karen?
No questions.
Okay, and I have no questions. So back to you, Larry, if you'd like to make that motion.
I move the Finance Committee recommend to the 2020 annual town meeting for the library operations the total of $518,605.
Kevin.
Okay, Kevin. I think Kevin got it, or at least I heard him first. Okay. Roll call vote. Larry,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Joni,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
and Kathy, yes. It passes 9-0. Okay, then moving on to the library building, which is back on C6. Do you want to start with that one?
Sure. It's also on page D19. As for the year-to-year, it is $1,215 after all of the additions and subtractions are made, subtractions as before, like the fire extinguisher and the light. There is, for example, very minor figures. It's money, but it's $18 in one case and $215 in another. You will see that the upgrade for elevator lighting is shown at $3,100, and there is a reading chair cleaning figure of $425. Those are the anticipated aftermath from the major revamping of the interior that took place in the last year and a half. So those are not surprises. And turning specifically to the elevator, and there are a number of elevators in town buildings, having the lighting right is a good idea because the state inspector will notice. And the last thing I think, frankly, for $3,100 the town wants is a state elevator inspector who just decides to spend the entire day visiting town's elevators. Heather, I am ready to propose a motion subject again to any remarks by the librarian and questions and comments by the members of the committee.
Becky, do you have anything to add to the building?
No, I think Larry hit upon the only changes in there.
Okay, good. We'll go real quick. Jared, any questions?
None.
Joni?
No questions.
Jim?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. One question, and maybe Robin could touch on this. I know we bought a new carpet cleaning machine, and we're going to use it at the center office building, the town hall, the safety complex, and the senior center. And I was curious why we have a separate line item here for carpet cleaning. Can't we have our own people do that with that machine that we just purchased to do 4 other buildings? Or is that outside the realm of what our maintenance people can do? They can't do the library. Just a curiosity.
Hi, everybody. This is Robin. So in light of answering that question, I would like to take the first year with the new equipment to make sure that everybody can, that the staff can do this appropriately, maintain that, and do our training. And the amount of money that is in the library budget, which I believe is $1,600, that is for one floor each year done professionally. So we just accomplished the children's room. This, while the building has been vacant, the cleaning of the children's room carpet was done this year. Next year, this would be the cleaning for the main floor, and then the following year back to the children's room. So I would like to see if, for the first year, the custodial cleaning can supplement the carpet cleaning. Really, we should be doing them twice a year to really maintain them. We can definitely do the walk-off areas and the entrance areas more than that with the staff. But for the full level, I'd like to, for the library for this coming year, I think it's appropriate to have one professional one in.
And then we can do spot cleaning as necessary if it has to be done in between?
Absolutely.
Okay. And my other question was, and it's just a curiosity, for the lighting in the elevator, I suspect that has to be done by some professional elevator service company like Bay State Elevator, who charges exorbitant fees and so forth to do that. But is that a good assumption that this is going to be done by a professional elevator servicing company? Because they do charge outrageous fees to do this type of work. And you really have no choice. They have to be licensed by the state. So that was just a informational question, if you will.
And you are correct. The cost here, we have a yearly contract with Worcester Elevator for our maintenance on the elevator in the library. And the $3,100 is the estimate that they gave us to upgrade the ceiling grid, which people keep putting trash above, and the fluorescent tubes. So these are the last two, or I should say 3 fluorescent tubes in the library, following the Green Communities LED upgrade of all the LED lights. It's just that under Green Communities, we couldn't do the elevators because they had to be done by the elevator company.
Right. So they're going to be LEDs, though?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Okay, thank you.
Mike, question?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, Kevin?
None.
Bruce?
All set, Madam Chair.
Karen?
All set.
Okay, I think we're ready for that motion, Larry.
I move that the Finance Committee recommend at the 2020 annual town meeting for the library bill the sum of $26,430.
Kevin Smith, second.
Kevin, okay, thank you. All right, let's vote. Larry?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Joni?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Kathy, yes. That's a vote of 9-0. All right, thank you. Becky, I think we're done with the library now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next on the, that we're going through is Robin. I think you're still here. The facilities and whatever other might be able to go over some of the other buildings too. I'm looking for you here. Okay, page C5 is the facilities budget itself. I don't know who had that. Oh, Bruce, that's you. Let's see. I know, Robin, if you want to start off here.
Sure, for my first round and my first round ever, so here we go.
Okay, and this is C5 in the budget, and then it's on the detail. Let me find it. It's C15. Look at both. So, yeah. If you just want to highlight some differences or additions.
Sure. So I think that some of the differences here are the one-time uses, which we just hit on when we were talking about the library, is that we are looking to purchase two carpet cleaning machines for $2,600. It's there's a large surface area one, and then there's a smaller one with attachments to get into stairs and things like that. So it's a team effort for the two items together. And we do not need the one purchase of the file cabinet, which I have to acquire this year. And then the addition of my architectural licensing fees for as a registered architect, and it is under the dues line for that. So that's the addition here for this year.
Bruce, did you have any comments on this?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Let's see. Questions? Karen?
I'm all set.
Kevin?
None.
Mike?
I'm all set, thank you.
Jim?
Just a curiosity, what's involved in the training?
The training is the OSHA, so I would like the custodians to all have OSHA 10-hour training for ladder uses and other things like that. So that's included in there, as well as additional training for myself for the OSHA requirements that we would entail.
That's a great idea.
Anything else, Jim?
No, that's it. That's great.
Okay, Joni?
Nope, I'm good.
Jared?
Jared? No question.
Okay, Larry?
All set.
Okay, then Bruce, would you want to make a motion on the facilities budget?
Yes. What page was that again, Madam Chair? I apologize.
Page 5, C5.
C5.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the town meeting approve the sum of $9,043 for the, so
Bruce, it's the next to 126,214. So 9,000 is the difference.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Madam
Madam Chair,
Kevin Smith, second.
So Bruce, I just want to make clear, the motion is for 126,214, correct?
that's right, Madam Chair.
Kevin is seconded it. Okay, we'll have a vote. Bruce, what's your vote?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Joni?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And Kathy, yes. So it is a 9-0 vote. Okay, Robin, would you also be talking about the other buildings, the town hall, center office, senior center? Would that come under you that we should talk about it?
Yeah, we definitely town hall and center office. We sure, yes.
Okay. So that's, those two are on 5, and also, if I can find them,
16 and 17.
16 and 17, thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah, it makes sense, following facilities. Okay, big changes here to point, Robin?
No significant changes here to the budget. The trash was moved into central purchasing from town hall, and the fire extinguishers were moved out of both budgets for center office and town hall into central purchasing. And the addition of this year is a one-time proposal, is to replace the vestibule heaters inside and some of them are in the stairs as well. There are little electric wall heaters just inside the double doors, between the double doors of town hall. They do not have a temperature readout on them, so they're very hard to set, and one of them does not work anymore. So in order to prevent freezing pipes that may be in that area, we're proposing to replace them.
Okay.
This is Mike. Replace them with what?
The same type of device. This is fit in the same opening, so it would be an electrician that would come and disconnect a wall electric heater and put a new one back in.
And one of the issues was a missing temperature control device. Will the new ones give you the feature that you're missing now?
Yes.
Okay, then, questions on the town hall, budget? Page C5. Any questions? Larry?
No questions.
Jared?
No.
Tony?
No questions.
Jim?
No, Mike asked it.
Okay, Mike, you asked the questions. Do you have any others, Mike?
No, I don't.
Okay, Kevin?
Yeah, just one. What is charter services for $7,500?
That is, the line item for that is managed by Chris. That is our cable, I believe. Barbara could probably speak better to that.
As in internet or?
Internet.
So why isn't it in the IT budget? I thought that's where we were consolidating.
Give me 1 second.
Kevin, was that 2,500?
75. 7,500.
I'm not finding that.
It's on page D16. You'll see charter services under purchase of services.
I'm not sure why we didn't move it, honestly, to IT, but we can look at doing that for next year.
So I was just trying to look for the IT budget. There's no internet at all in the IT budget is what you're saying?
I'm not sure, Kevin. That's what I'm trying to look at now. I might have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
I'm going to go through the stuff I have here, so just give me a little while. If you got, we can go back if you want to really move it. But I'd rather just leave it where it is this year and look at moving it next year.
All I want to know, Barbara, is make sure it's not double billed.
Yeah, I'm going to look.
All right.
I will keep going, see if people have questions. Bruce, did you have any questions?
No.
Karen?
No question.
I don't have any questions. Want to wait for Barbara, or we'll talk about the center office building?
This is Mike. The IT budget is on D8. I don't see any internet or charter services in any of those line items.
Yeah, I think we didn't move it. I would just vote it the way it is, and then we can always go back if there's anything to move, but I'm pretty sure we just left it under town hall.
Could I just then correctly, would it be classified under IT for next year? It shouldn't really belong here?
You know, I think that we've slowly been trying to pull things out of the budgets into the new department. So facilities is another one where I think as we go along, we're moving things. And I think this one is just an example of one that hasn't been moved yet.
That's fine. That's a perfectly fine explanation. I just want to, next year we should see it under IT.
Yeah, I'll make a note to do that for next year, for sure.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Bruce, do you want to make a motion? This is on page C5 for the $48,313 for town hall.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept that we recommend the amount of $48,313.
Kevin Smith seconds.
Okay. All right, let's see, roll call vote. Kevin?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Kathy, yes. Larry?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Joni?
Yes.
Jim
Yes.
and Mike.
Yes.
That passes by a vote of 9-0. And then we have the center office building also on page C5 and D17 in the detailed budget. Robin, is there, it looks like in supplies there's a big increase.
Yes, so the two increases here are the stair heaters, which is a similar situation to town hall, and under supplies, conference room to office. So on the second floor, the small conference room that is in the corner by the kitchen, we are proposing to install or purchase file cabinets and some desks in an L shape to create 3 flexible workstations. At this point, I can easily see the tree warden, the trails committee, and the veterans agent, who all have laptops, coming in and using that space and assigning them file cabinets in this area. One of the reasons is because the Economic Development Office is where all 4 of those people currently live. So that office is very crowded. It's a small office to begin with. And also, the Economic Development has been purchasing, and Tourist Association, both of those under that same role, which was formerly Kevin. They purchased lots of brochures, lots of notepads, lots of items that they are unfortunately storing in the basement and in the stairwell because they don't have enough room in the office for economic development at this time. So in order to give all the 4 of them a little bit of breathing room, I'm proposing to turn that conference into a flexible office space.
Okay, any comments, Bruce, on this? I have to just move this quickly because I'm battery powered here. Let's on here. Sorry. So, Bruce, any questions?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Kevin?
No.
Jim?
No questions.
I need to move on my papers too. Hold on. Larry?
No questions.
Jared?
No questions.
Tony?
I do. Where is the Economic Development Office now? Because I thought his office was in the safety complex.
No, economic development is the office straight ahead at the top of the stairs of center office.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Yes.
The Kevin, we enjoyed Kevin, he had 2 positions, the Emergency Management Coordinator and the Economic Development and Tourism Coordinator. The EMD has an office at the Public Safety Building, but the Economic Development Office is at COB. So he would go back and forth between the 2. And it appears today that we will not be able to have the same person occupy both of those jobs at the same time. And as a result, we've increased the hours for the Economic Development and Tourism Coordinator to 37.5. And the EMD has the same 12 hours a week.
Okay, so then the economic development person will be in the center office building where he or she should be, and same for the emergency coordinator with the safety complex. Is that right?
That is correct. The Economic Development Office has always been at COB. It just so happens we had one person occupy both positions.
All right. Okay. No, I knew he did that. I didn't realize he had 2 offices. And the tree, trail, and veterans. Does the veteran coordinator come in. I know we have a fairly new person in that position. I wasn't under the impression that he was in very often. I'm just curious. By the way, I think having swing offices or whatever you want to call the flexible workstations is probably a good idea. Not even just for some of these positions, but even perhaps if there were some visitors of some of the town officials that needed to set up for some reason. But I'm curious how frequently the tree, trails, and veteran folks are in the office.
A couple times a week, maybe, but this would also provide a place for a filing cabinet for them to keep their materials. Right now, those things are kind of crammed into that one economic development office, so this would allow them to have like a dedicated filing cabinet for them to keep their records, including the veterans agent, which, you know, has some pretty, we would consider confidential information that they need to store.
Okay, and then on that theme, you know, the filing cabinet, I can only imagine the stuff that the Economic Development Office produces, right? And I'm sure that the veteran agent has, like you said, information that should be stored for sure in a locked cabinet. Is that going to house everything, and will it still give you enough space? Because it sounds like if they're putting things in the stairwells to store, I mean, I know storage is at a premium at town hall. You know, is it going to be big enough to house everything that you need?
I'm sorry I lost you, but I just want to be clear. We're not storing any records in the stairwells. These are pamphlets. These are guides. These are publications that we produce that are.
I understand.
Yeah. Okay. So I missed the other half of your question. I'm sorry.
Sorry. The reason I mentioned, I didn't mean to keep talking over you. The reason I mentioned the economic development stuff, the pamphlets and whatnot, is because that generally is in big boxes, and it's cumbersome.
Yes.
I hope that we can fit it all in there. It's very difficult to tell right now. There's a lot of posters that belong to trails in the Economic Development Office, and as I did with this new position, perhaps with a new coordinator, there will be the ability to reorganize the files and really understand what everyone has. I do not see how they, there's a bookshelf behind the door right now, and on one shelf is all three files. There are pamphlets, and they're all mixed. There's tree and trails, and they're all mixed together. So I think the ability to attempt to put them into separate file cabinets and areas will increase the efficiency as well. And that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, let's see who has not asked questions. Karen? I'm all set. Kevin, did I get you or no?
No, but I'm good.
Okay, and Mike?
Yeah, just to be clear, you're creating 3 flexible workspaces in what's a conference room now. Does that mean that room is no longer going to be used as a conference room? It's strictly going to be used for office space?
Correct. I would move the table into the main area.
Madam Chair. Sorry. Go ahead.
And one follow-up to that. So does that then, was that used quite regularly as a meeting space and conference room during the day or for other committees at night, and thus we're adding more pressure and needs for additional meeting space during the day and or evening for committees that otherwise would have met there while someone was using a larger room up there?
I'm not sure, but I do know that we still have the 2 conference rooms in Town Hall, particularly the front room in Town Hall that seems to be rarely used.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Bruce, are you ready to make a motion?
I have a couple questions. Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
For whoever can answer it easiest, about how much does a filing cabinet like that cost?
I believe the quote that I got was for 4 5-drawer, not lateral, regular file cabinets, and I believe the price for them was $400 each. So it's just under half of this price is for the filing, and then the other half is for the desk.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Bruce, are you ready to make a motion for the center office building?
I am, Madam Chair. I move that we recommend the amount of $41,842 for the center office building budget.
Is that Kevin? Second?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Roll call vote. Bruce?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Kathy, yes. Larry?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Joni?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Kevin?
Yes.
That passes.
Can I ask who seconded that?
It was Kevin.
Kevin.
Thank you.
Yes. So is that all we have for you, Robin?
I'm thinking we should do maybe a few more. Well, so let me ask. I will be taking over the senior center building budget, which is the next page. Leslie and I worked on this together, but we've decided that come July 1, I will be managing the budget.
Okay.
I also submitted the budget for the nursery school and 8 Brookfield Road.
Oh, okay, so those are on page C6. So if you want to start with the senior center building.
I believe that's assigned to me.
Oh, it is, okay.
The year-to-year net increase is $261. That results from additions and subtractions. An example of an addition is $25 for electric maintenance, $75 for an alarm maintenance, $17 for pest control. The subtraction includes the disappearance of disappearance of $700 for a one-time repair of the floor in the basement. It is, from a building, not program standpoint, a modest adjustment year to year. Again, $261. And subject to questions and comments, I will be happy to offer a motion.
Okay, questions? Let me see, I need a new sheet of paper here. Oh. Okay, this is senior center. Jared?
No question.
Joni? Joni?
No, I'm good.
Jim?
Yeah, one quick question. I see with no charges last year or the year before, this year we have $2,600 for HVAC services. Is that because of past due maintenance, or is that preventive maintenance, or what's the subject of that amount of money?
Sure. Some of this is preventative maintenance, and some of this is terminology. So if you notice, the oil burner service line was 500 and is now 0. It's now incorporated into HVAC. So we have not only the oil burner, but we also have the spring maintenance for the air conditioning unit. So it's all into one preventative maintenance line.
Okay, thank you.
Mike?
I'm all set, thank you.
Kevin?
Yeah, I have a question, and this is the same one as the town hall. This budget includes charter services, which I assume is internet. Would that end up going to the IT budget next year? And also, this is one of my bugaboos too. It's $7,500 for the town hall, but it's $1,200 here.
Right,
is
so
it
we
just-
talked about this at the last meeting, so Jeremy had gotten that grant for fiber, which is going to connect all the town buildings. So going forward, once that project is complete, which should be by next fiscal year, we would move all those costs because they would no longer be building by building.
In this discrepancy between buildings, like, you're talking $5,000 something dollars here.
Right, so the 7,500 in the town hall building, that's the fiber. This is actually, this would not be fiber at the senior center. And then the differences also are due to, like the speed of the internet in each of the buildings. But yes, I agree with you. It is not consistent between building to building as far
Barbara?
as cost. Yes.
Does the town hall also service the library and center office from its location?
It does. So it's those three buildings, yes.
So, but still, if you took $1,200 for the senior center and multiplied it by 3 for the town hall, it'd be $3,600, not 75. But this will all disappear next year because everything will be connected and there will only be one access point to the internet.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You all set, Kath?
Yes.
Okay, Bruce, any questions?
No.
Karen? No question. Okay, Larry, I think we're ready for a motion then.
I move the Finance Committee recommend to the 2020 annual town meeting for the center office building a total budget of $27,910.
Kevin Smith, second.
Okay, roll call vote. Larry?
Hold on, Madam
Yes.
Chair, hold on.
Yes.
I think Larry said the center office building when it should be the senior center building.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what he said. I didn't,
Good catch. Thank you. You're right. I amend myself to say to withdraw the word senior and include in its place the word senior.
Thank you.
Kevin, are you good with that?
I am.
Okay. And we'll
Thank you.
continue
Sorry
with
about that,
Larry,
Larry.
I believe. Yeah, I didn't catch it either. Larry, you voted yes, I believe, right?
Yes, well, I have to. I moved the motion. I have no
Well, I
choice.
know, but still, it's a formality. We have to roll call vote. Jared?
Yes.
Joni?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Karen? Yes. And Kathy, yes. That's a vote of 9-0. Let's see, you said the nursery school, which is actually Jared.
Yes. You can find the details on Delta 15, B15. You'll see that there is a increase this year, mainly to the line for repairs.
Did you say B15 or what?
I think you meant 21.
Wrong. Hold on.
It's on T6, but that's also, let me see, it's 21, I think, yeah.
Yep.
Yes, 21. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
So the budget for oil remains the same. Repairs did increase $1,000, but $350 of that came out from supplies, which is no longer a line item for 2030. And then there's a new line for fire alarm monitoring. So if we could please expand on the need for the repairs increase and the new fire alarm monitoring.
Yeah, sure. This is Robin. Slowly been working with Deb Morin at the nursery school. The increase in the repairs line will hopefully allow us to correct some of the deficiencies that have been appearing on the annual 110 inspection with the building inspector and fire inspector. They are using electrical extension cords for most of their appliances instead of having their amount of outlets, as well as some fire alarm device issues, which was in the capital project for this year. I'm currently working on that capital project to see that if I can make that happen. And once that capital project is approved, it will come with an annual monitoring fee. So, or I should say that last year's approved capital project, once it's completed and installed, it will come with an annual monitoring fee. Pardon me.
Okay.
So it's an upgrade to the fire monitoring system on a whole, as a
Yes.
whole.
Yes, right now it does not dial out. So if the alarm goes off, it's a self-standing building.
Yeah. We need to have that upgrade for the nursery.
Yes, for a bunch of little 3 and 4 year olds. Let's see, any questions from Jim?
Just a quick one. The fire alarm monitoring, that goes to an independent third party that would call our fire department?
Yes, such as Johnson Controls, which is what we have at the other building.
Okay. Thank you.
Mike?
I'm all set.
Kevin?
I'm good.
Bruce? Bruce, questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, just a couple quick ones. The 1,700 is already included in the purchase of services line, right?
Well, there's 1,000 for the purchase of services. There's oil at 1,000, repairs 2,000, and the fire alarm monitoring is the 700. It's a difference of 1,700. It's actually the total purchase of services is 3,700. An increase of 1,700 from last fiscal year. See that, Bruce?
I do, yeah, I do. Thank you.
Okay. Karen?
No questions.
Joni?
No questions.
And Larry? You have any
No
questions?
questions.
Okay. And Jared, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I move that the Finance Committee recommends town meeting to approve the nursery school budget in the amount of $3,700.
Second? Very good. All right, we'll vote. Jared?
Yes.
Joni? Joni?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Kathy, yes. And Larry?
Yes.
And passes by a vote of 9-0. And last is Brookfield Road. I actually see anybody being a liaison here, but so why don't you just go ahead? I think it's actually down from last year, so.
Yes, this is Robin. So I have not actually used much of the budget this year, if any, so far for the repairs at Brookfield Road. The building is buttoned up and it has been safe so far. So I felt confident in decreasing the number slightly for next year.
And that is the only budget for that building, correct? The repairs?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So Kathy, it's Kevin.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that the town that we recommend $900 to the town meeting for the April Field Road budget.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
This is
That
Mike.
is Jim. I'll second that.
Jim? Okay, second. Anybody have
Kathy,
any?
before you go, can Jeff just give an update on what he's doing with the building?
Nothing.
You want- From Jeff? Oh, nothing, okay.
No, I think at some point, based upon the town meeting, we'll have to put together an RFP to circulate in the community to see if there's a, potential use for it that would be amenable to the town. So that process will go forward at some point. Also, there is one other expense for 8 Brookfield Road, which is insurance. There's a separate cost for property insurance for that building. So 900 is not the full amount for the cost of care of that building.
Right,
Did
that's
I
all.
suggest you're trying to rent or lease the building out, or were you looking to sell it if someone wanted to purchase it and repurpose it?
I think what we would do is put out an RFP asking for people who had an idea, whether to be direct purchase with a rehab of the site or a lease with a rehab of the site, and we would have to vet those opportunities and see which one was the most attractive for the community.
Does anyone have any questions?
Nope.
And we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Larry?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Joni?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Kathy, yes, so that's a vote of 9-0. I think that's it for you tonight, Robin, so thank you.
Kathy, this is Mike. Could I just ask, is Robin taking over part of the safety complex, or does she think the chief is still mostly in control of the safety complex?
I'm working hand in hand with the chief to work on the building. I'm not sure when, but I can see it transitioning at some point. I think he has a lot on his plate, and I would be glad to work on the building for him. But I think it's going to take maybe a year or two to fully transition that.
So I guess my question is, budget-wise, will you be speaking to that, or are you still leaving that for Chief Grosso to speak to?
For this year, it'll be Chief Brasso.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Robin.
Thank you very
Kathy,
much.
before Robin leaves, I do think she has a couple of capital items perhaps.
Oh,
Do you have any questions?
See, that's in F. Okay, on page 5, the facility storage and records management, $22,350. And that's for funding for record storage at the center office building and hiring a records management company to scan or microstate the documents that need to be retained. This was one of the items that was voted by the capital committee. Do you want to elaborate at all on that, Robin?
Sure. So, in the efforts of removing items from stairwells and making egress paths safe, and to further the work that the center office staff has done so far to date, they have done a phenomenal job of organizing their records and removing them from the attic of the public safety complex, getting them all organized. And they have some shelving in the storage room in the basement of center office. However, the shelving has already filled up and they need more. So this proposal would be for mobile shelving, which would double the boxes in the basement from 260 currently to over 520 boxes in that one storage room by installing mobile shelving. And so it'll be a team effort to have a company come in and install the shelving, and we'll move the existing shelving I'm thinking to move it to the attic of the public safety complex where we don't have that for the other records that we do have stored there.
Any questions for Robin on that?
I have a question, Kathy.
Okay, go ahead, Karen.
So if I'm reading this right, are you going to be shredding the documents and putting them onto some sort of electronic or microfiche so that, you know, we won't have the need to keep all the paper?
I don't believe that the state has a record retention policy set to be able to do that yet. However, I do have a question for Barbara. I know that through the Capitol that Jean was working on the company part. However, I'm not sure that that's included in this dollar amount here.
No, it is. It is. So it's actually what Robin spoke about, as well as scanning and microfiching some of the documents. So it's a two-part.
Okay, thank you.
So can I just jump in on that then? 'Cause I had a similar question. So, but what about the shredding of the documentation? Like, what happens to the paper materials? And is that going to cost money to have shredded and moved?
So we already have budgeted funds to have ProShred come in several times a year to shred documents, and that money is, I believe, in the town administrator's budget.
Okay. Is there going to be enough to do or to cover
Yes,
it?
there should. No, yeah, there should be. Yeah.
Any other questions on that one?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay,
Just,
go ahead.
you know, storage has been a problem for a while. So are we going to go, you know, starting at some point in time going forward, just start digitizing everything right off the bat instead of waiting till we accumulate a mountain of paper?
If I may, Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Jeff.
The land use boards are moving in that direction, as is the building department. All submittals have to come in with a digital format and a digital version. That way we can store those. Now, digital is not an approved method of storage for government records, but it makes it easier for retention and to upload into our GIS systems and keep in our own layers on our information systems. So I know the land use boards and the building department are going that way. In addition, we've instituted a new building permit software, which is all digital. It moves between departments, so permits and sign-offs that are necessary circulate through the departments digitally. There's a field version. So we are moving in that direction. We'll get there someday, I would hope, but it's small steps. And a lot of the older records have to be digitized and brought forward as well. So we are moving in that direction.
Any other questions on this one? Did you have another one, Robin? I didn't really see one here, but in Capitol.
Not that I know of in Capital. This year, for your general information, this year has been a year of working on existing capital projects, making sure that things that have been in the pipeline, some for several years, that I can make some headway on them and get forward to them, as well as this being my first budget round. I'm certainly learning a lot, and I have a list started for this coming December. So it's been taking me some time to prepare and really get my feet wet around the many buildings. So I hope to look forward to next year's budget round, where I probably will come up with some more projects.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask one tangential question?
Sure.
I'm just curious how the storm windows are working out. Have they been purchased, installed, et cetera?
For center office, yes, they have been. We have an executed contract, and the shop drawings have been approved. The Massachusetts Historical Commission has approved the installation of them under the easement for center office. So we are just waiting for the manufacturer, who hopefully is fully staffed wherever they are, to build them and get them shipped and delivered. We're looking at a June installation date. Better late than never, and we can at least save on air conditioning costs for the summer.
Thank you.
Jeff, did you have something?
Yeah, just to back up to our previous conversation on the electronic storage, the real magic to digitalization and electronic storage is to have a catalog system that you can develop, maintain, and make sure you're storing them appropriately so you're not having multiple versions, you're not changing how you store things when new people come in. And that's one of the benefits of bringing in one of these companies to help us, is they're going to help us develop the system and the file system, the electronic data storage file system that we can keep and maintain and be consistent with across all the departments. So it's a process.
So Jeff, just one thing to that too, maybe you know this already. One of the problems that people have with electronic storage is that the formats change. So what used to be a Word doc that worked with Word in 95 doesn't work with Word in 2000. So it's more like finding that generic storage
medium
that'll work across.
Right. Right, and that's part of the process. Most of the electronic storage files would probably be in Adobe format. That way they can't be modified without record. You store a Word file, someone can go in and change the Word file. Now you can find out who does that or track the changes, but finding a format for storage for long term is part of the magic to all of this.
Okay, everybody all set?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Robin.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you, too. Okay, gonna move on to the police department. I hope Chief Ford is still hanging in there with us.
Yes, we are still here.
Okay. Thanks. Mike, this is your department, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is.
Good.
All right. So I'm going to work off of. I'm going to work off of sheet D23, which is a detailed item in there.
Okay.
So just as the intro to this, starting at the top, there's about $150,000 change in the salaries line item. A couple of things to point out here. The department head salary is down about $10,000. I haven't had a chance to talk to Jeff, but Chief Ford is retiring after many years of successful service to the town here. There's a search committee going on. I assume that Jeff is setting that budget line item to reflect what he thinks he'll be using for a new hire. But if that's not enough, we'll need to appropriate some money from some other line items to meet whatever the ultimate salary is when that position is filled. It'll also cover the interim salary until that takes place. The other items, I don't think this has been adjusted for the union contract because that's still in negotiations. We talked about the last time there was a $100,000 line item in one of the unclassified budgets that we would use to fund those increases when it takes place. But the one change in overall department and manpower structure here is the addition of one additional full-time dispatcher. Chief Ford's come before the selectmen and the finance committee year after year, keeps suggesting he could use additional manpower in the police department and other areas. Never really gets those positions funded. Although as I look back, we're increasing rec department hours. We've increased the building inspector hours and the support staff. Multiple committees have had support staff hours increased to cover meeting time. We have the new library position. We keep adding hours to different positions and moving them up. We've never really given the chief extra support. Fire department got its four new full-timers through the grant that is winding down this year. But this is the one time he's getting an additional staff member to meet his goal of complying with some state standard recommendations of having 2 full-time dispatchers on duty 24/7. One to manage phones, deal with dispatching issues, another one to deal with public and other inquiries that kind of come in while those other activities are taking place. I think he's indicated he needs about 11 full-timers to do that completely. This gets him a little bit closer. He'll be able to have 2 on simultaneously during 2 shifts. The overnight shift will still just have an individual person. But that's the big change in terms of staffing that's going on in this budget here. The purchase of services, the supplies, the other charge line items, there are small changes. There aren't any individual line items that have significantly moved or new things coming in or things coming out. There's just minor adjustments on various line items that are just, unless one jumps out at you, you want an explanation, there really aren't worth going through. And that just leaves them an overall budget of about $3.1 million when we're done. So I'll pause there and see if the chief wants to add anything or elaborate on anything on his budget here.
Yeah, Chief?
No, thank you, Michael. I appreciate the efforts and the kind words. Regarding the budget, I am reminded that we have had increases to take care of our schools. We have 2 school resource officers, and we have added 2 full-time dispatchers as well over the years. As I've mentioned to you before, the NFPA standards, because we're running an emergency medical dispatch center here, requires us to have the same standards for the National Fire Protection Association that we hold our fire department to. Requires us, if we're having an EMD dispatch, emergency medical dispatch, that we have 2 telecommunicators on at all times. That's 24/7. We haven't been able to comply with that standard ever. We try to do our best between the grant monies that we get and part-time staff. This will help us get a little closer to that again this year. So what we did through Jeff is some creative financing here, and in capital, the operating capital, we took one of our cruisers away this year, and the balance was applied to the full-time dispatch position, presumably beginning in September. By the time we get the budget approved and the hiring process completed, that the person would begin in September, and there would be enough money in salary and wages that was taken from the operating capital to cover that cost. Other than that, pretty much standard increases due to contractual obligations with outside vendors. I don't see anything that's terribly significant in this year's budget. So I'm open for
this is Mike. Yeah, this is Mike. I did forget that one last line item. So that is the other big one to take a look at. So typically, on the operating cap, typically we've been replacing 2 cruisers a year. We're only going to replace 1 this year. The chief feels that his fleet's in an okay spot that he can manage that this year. But next year, when we go back to the need to fund 2 cruiser replacements going forward, there'll be another $60,000 or $70,000 increase in his budget, assuming staffing and everything else stays the same. So some of the net increase and the cost of adding that new full-time dispatcher is being balanced by the reduction of a new cruiser, but we can't count on that year after year. And I guess with that, I might turn to Jeff just to make sure I've properly represented the department head salary and other items that are going on in that budget from his perspective.
That is correct, other than we don't anticipate that that $100,000 that's in the back of the budget is for 2 things: the police contract settlement, if we can reach one, and the funding of the implementation of the compensation and classification plan. So that has multiple functions, that one line item. But you are correct in the police department budget, and thank you for a comprehensive review of that. Yes, well done.
Okay, let's
So I'm
go.
all set, Kathy.
Okay, you're all set, Mike. Okay, Kevin, question.
Just a comment and a question. First, I want to congratulate the chief on his retirement and for all the years of great service you provided the town. You'll be missed, that's for sure. And the question I have is on the replacement. It says it's a hybrid vehicle. Is there a lot of experience in police department use of hybrid vehicles?
Not to my knowledge. This is a first for me, but we are, as we've committed to green communities, we're getting a grant to offset the difference in the cost between the hybrid cruiser and the standard cruiser. And you know, I guess I'll have to let Lieutenant Desert let you know how that works out. But I don't anticipate there being too many issues. I think it'll be a high performance vehicle. I think the technology that's available to us today can certainly make up for any of the differences. I don't think we need that the 350 with 4-barrel under the hood anymore, and the dual exhaust and all the fan speed. I think that technology is certainly advanced to a point where we can have more economic vehicles that are still efficient to serve our purposes.
I just was curious if we knew any other departments or even other, federal levels that have used them, and, just to get an experience of how long they've survived, what are their upkeep costs, because most of the time they're not bad to maintain until you have to replace the battery portion.
Right, and unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of data out there because of the changes in technology, and the interest in the hybrids now have become more popular than they have in the past. So, I think every community in every state is going to be a testing grounds for this new technology, and we'll see in a year or two if it's a success. I don't think that we're getting some grants to offset the cost, but I really don't think that it's a bad move to try it, because if it works out in our favor, then all the better. And if it doesn't, we haven't really lost very much in the ways of purchasing the cruiser.
And just one more thing about how it's spec'd. Is it, because typically hybrids have special tires that make them, lower resistance, and they're not as heavy duty as the normal vehicle might be. This is a police cruiser. The actual spec is a police cruiser for heavy duty vehicles.
Yes. Ford has adapted a police responder, which is a hybrid edition of the current cruiser that's out there.
Okay.
And so they do have a vehicle that is made for this type of duty, and they've already tested it, and the tests have come back positive, and they're ready to roll on the road. So again, I don't have any actual data from the street, so to speak, to provide you with that. We were working in conjunction with Jean Boubon, the town planner, as we were working towards our Greener Communities commitment. And one of the commitments was that we were going to take some of our higher mileage gas guzzling cruisers off the road and replace them with hybrid cruisers to comply with our commitment to green communities.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Bruce. Bruce, any questions?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, Karen?
No questions.
Larry?
Chief, thank you and good luck. No questions.
Jared?
No questions. Thank you.
Joni?
I do actually have some questions before Tom retires. And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
So you have 9 vehicles. I haven't noticed, so the animal control officer has a vehicle.
Yes.
How?
I think your sound is off there, Joni.
Yeah, you broke off there in the end.
Oh, I did? Oh.
All I heard was no.
Oh, sorry. So the vehicles. So I see, so there's 9 vehicles. Now, does that include the animal control officer vehicle? Because I didn't realize that we had given the animal control officer a vehicle.
The animal control officer's had a vehicle for a few years now, and that 9 is just our active line cruisers. It doesn't include our unmarked or administrative vehicles or special service vehicles at all.
So how many vehicles total do you guys have? Again, I know we go through this every year, but I'm just curious to take a tally.
14?
So, all right, so 9 cruisers.
9 line cars, 2 administrative vehicles, the animal control vehicle, the pickup truck, which is a special service vehicle, the motorcycles, and UTV.
Okay, all right, got it.
Oh, and drone.
No drone yet. That got put on hold because for budgetary reasons. We haven't been able to purchase that yet.
Oh, really? Oh, super. I have one more thing. Hold on. I just have one more comment. In your purchase of services, what is a BT warranty? It's a new line item for $800, $838.
We were provided that. Go ahead, Nan. We were provided a breath test machine by the state, and one of the obligations and requirements that we had from taking that machine from the state is having to purchase a warranty for it because we're responsible for all the repairs. In the past, the Office of Alcohol Testing used to maintain those machines, and now the state in its infamously put the burden of repair and maintenance upon the individual departments.
Okay, so this is going to be a new annual cost, or no, or is it just a one?
Yes, that should be warranty. I don't know how that warranty is going to be structured, but if it's like any other warranty, that should increase annually until a new machine is provided to us from the state. I'm hoping that they fund the next machine.
Okay. Nothing further. Yep.
Okay, did I miss anybody? Jim, did I get you?
No, you didn't, but I don't have any questions. I just want to wish the chief best of luck in his future endeavors, and thank you for all the great service you've done for the town.
I think we all echo that, Chief. You'll certainly be missed. Are we?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. Mike, are you ready to make a motion?
Yes, I am. I recommend, I make a motion that the Finance Committee recommend that town meeting adopt the town meeting approve the police department budget in the amount of $3,132,154.
Second.
I'm sorry, who was that? Is that you, Kevin?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Start with you, Mike. Your vote?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And Kathy, yes. That is 9-0. All right. You do have a few capital and perhaps betterment.
Yes, cap betterment, correct.
We'll get to those. First one, I think this would be you, the Motorola Local Public Service Digitally Capable Base Radio for $7,566. That's police. So is that you, Chief?
Yes, it is. Are we talking capital? Because I did put this on both, so I don't know which side it was approved on, if it was approved on capital or betterment.
It was approved on capital.
Okay, that's what I was hoping. This Motorola radio, it's a digital 800 series radio. It gives us interoperability with the New Braintree Dispatch Center for the State Police, which covers our bordering communities of Brimfield, Holland, and the Brookfields, and also the State Police. and the state police are updating their 800 system and digitizing that system. The radio that the state gave us in order to make us interoperable several years ago is now outdated, and we were advised the last time it broke that it was unrepairable. And we borrowed one and put a few pieces together off of 2 old ones to run the one we have now. This would buy a brand new one outright for our department and replace the one that's in existence now. It's P25 capable. It would be able to be put into operation right away and be upgradable in the future when they digitize.
So just to make sure that we aren't double counting, is it in the police budget, Chief? Or do you think it was taken out then, that 7,500?
No. This is in capital.
Yeah, okay, so it's not in the police budget.
He thought it was in betterment. It is not in the betterment.
Oh, you thought it was betterment. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
I had put it in for both, and I had my paperwork upside down here.
Okay. All right. All right, so this is capital. So any questions on that? Okay. Let's see, what else is here for you? The police Very Desk arm support, $6,000.
This is Mike. There's a couple items in here that are called safety complex, some chairs, some arm supports. This is all ergonomic stuff for dispatch areas and others in there where they're getting upgraded chairs and some of the desk features that allow you to stand up, work from a standing position versus a sitting position if need be. That's what those various items are covering in there.
Well, okay, that would cover the Very Desk. Are you counting the executive 24/7 chairs for the dispatch?
We've just got the Very Desk. The chairs are under public safety.
Right.
They may have been put together under public safety. The Very Desks are just that. They're the desk for the existing computers. As Mike said, they're saying sitting is the new smoking now, and with our dispatchers, as well as us member in the administrative side, we tend to be in our seats most of the day. So we were hoping to get a more ergonomically friendly computer desk so that we can have the option of standing and doing our work as opposed to having to sit and do the work. And this would replace all the workstations in the police side of the public safety complex, including the dispatch, or both stations in the dispatch center.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay. Yeah, I think everything else is under public safety complex, which generally comes under the fire chief, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you had some in the betterment as well. Let's see.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could we return for a moment to the radio?
The one we just talked about?
Yes.
Sure.
I'm wondering if there was any possible way that this expense could be spread over more of the other towns that are going to benefit. Because
Actually, the other towns aren't going to benefit. The other towns have an operational radio system that's on the 800 system right now, and the benefit is to us so that we can communicate with them. Should they have their own system, but we can't communicate with them because we don't have that radio. The state did provide us with the radio at one time. This is just replacing the radio that the state gave us, and it's an essential piece of equipment for interoperability in order for us to communicate with the state police and those other towns around us that are dispatched from the state police in New Braintree. And every police department in the Commonwealth has one of these radios, and every police department in the Commonwealth has had to replace theirs independently through their own departments. And it's not been, while it does benefit the other departments being able to talk to us, it also benefits us being able to talk to them as well.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, so turning to the betterment, there's a few requests One is I believe it's a repeat from at least a couple of years, the special events overtime, which is $15,000. Is that the same, Chief, as it has been?
No, that was a $5,000 increase.
Oh.
And Jeff, we had spoken earlier about a reduction in that. I didn't know if that was staying the same or if it was being reduced.
Which one?
For the special events overtime through Betterment.
Yeah, we've not touched those. Again, you're looking at pre-COVID budgets, so we're in the process of gathering up.
I just want to make sure we're staying with pre-COVID. The explanation that I have for that $15,000, it's a $5,000 increase over what we've received in the past several years. One of the very first budgets that I produced for the police department and brought forward to the town was showing an increase in the first few years was showing an increase in overtime, and a majority of that, I shouldn't say majority, a portion of that overtime was due to a number of events that were occurring in town that were benefiting the community, that were community-based. And I thought at the time that it was best to establish a special events funding source through Betterment for that, and we pulled out all of our special event initiatives, and we calculated an amount that was approximately $10,000 to cover just the town events. Our annual special events overtime costs are $42,393, and so that is just a small portion of that amount, and it covers at least the core town events, and the rest of the events we budget for come out of our regular overtime.
Okay, any questions on that? No? Okay, the next.
Yeah, one. That 15,000 pretty much is already budgeted as far as you're concerned. You know exactly what events you're going to expend it on it.
Yes, and those events usually use that money up the first quarter of the fiscal year. And it usually goes to events like the Pan Mass Challenge, the Mass Outdoor Exposition, a couple of the road races that occur in the summertime, Old Sturbridge Free Fun Friday, one of the flea markets that comes around. So before the summer's over, just into the Columbus Day weekend, that money is usually spent already, and then the remainder of the special events overtimes for our other police and community policing initiatives is carried out throughout the remainder of the fiscal year.
Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, the next is first aid kits, which is a new request for $3,710. Looks like there'll be about 20 kits purchased. Is this replacing first aid kits that we have, or a different type, Chief?
These are a different type of kits. These kits are given to the officers, and they're attached right to their duty gear. And what it is it's an individual first aid kit, and it provides the officers with a way to stabilize severe wounds such as bullet wounds or any other type of traumatic injuries. And it also includes includes a tourniquet, the ability to have the gauze available to us. It can be included in this pack, and it should tell you right in there what it comes with: the combat gauze and the chest seal for a sucking chest wound. I mean, this is for traumatic injuries in the field when there is no other first aid available, and while you're waiting for emergency medical services to arrive. This kit would be carried individually by each officer, so they have that so that they can administer that level of first aid in the field. This is a level of equipment that they're carrying right on their belts that otherwise would have to retreat to their cruisers to go get. And you don't always carry your first aid kit into a building or into a house, and you don't know what could happen in this house or into a building. Therefore, if there was a traumatic event that occurred and an injury sustained, the officers would have equipment right on to administer first aid immediately to themselves or to a partner, depending upon the seriousness of the injury.
Okay, any questions on that?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Great.
Aaron.
So would this first aid kit also be used to administer emergency care to a citizen?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And again, that's right. If an officer was responding to a call for service and they went into a scene and they didn't have their first aid kit with them, if they were unsure that it was a medical call or the seriousness of the call, then they would be able to utilize that right away. Yes, it would be for life saving. It doesn't identify whose life is going to be saved. It would be for saving, for rapid access to equipment. We're dealing with the time that it would take an officer retreat to his cruiser to get his first aid kit and come back, where they could be just applying first aid immediately from their belt.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Again, these are the most traumatic injuries. These are not, someone that needs stitches and something that can be held together with pressure. These are for life-threatening traumatic injuries.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? First aid?
Yeah, Kevin.
Kevin, sure. Go ahead.
This is basically in a piece of additional equipment to what they have, because we already provide them with combat gauze and all that type of stuff, and they carry it. I forgot what you call it, like your breakout bag or something like that. And this is just, like you said, a time-saving measure. It's something they have that they can apply immediately and give them time to go back to their car if they needed to and bring back their first aid.
You're absolutely right, Kevin. This adds on to what we already have. While we have the tourniquets and the combat gauze that we have in past purchases, this actually puts a separate kit onto their duty rig, so they have it with them at all times. The other ones officers had either in their vest or somewhere else on their person. This gives them this individual first aid kit to carry with them at all times on their duty rig, so that it's there, and it augments what we already have, or it can take the primary role, and the stuff that we have now could be utilized in a secondary capacity.
Okay, thank you.
And I think the last thing that you have here, Chief, is the event canopy, and that's a new request for $1,329.
Yes, and that, again, for the number of special events that we have, the senior cookout, events on the common, in the other type of community events that the police department gets involved in, our volunteer officers or the officers that are working, our CERT members, et cetera, when they're out there, a lot of these events, again, in the summertime, they have no protection from the sun or from the rain. And this would give us a pop-up canopy with the Sturbridge PD logo, much like the one that the fire department has. I don't know if you've ever seen that one on the common before. And give us one of those for the PD to utilize in our special events for those type of keep the sun and the rain off of them. They're weather-resistant canopies for these community policing initiative.
Any questions on that?
Oh, I'm good.
All right, did you have anything else in here, Chief? I don't see anything, but I could have missed it.
No, I believe that's it for now.
Yes. All right, anybody have any final questions for the Chief?
Just want to extend the congratulations again and thank you for your service.
Yes. Thank you for your
Best wishes.
best wishes.
Probably can leave us.
And I know you have a vote left to do, but I just want to say thank you for the many, many years of support. So many of you were liaisons to the police department. Many of you were there when my first budget was produced and helped me through that. You've always been very, very fair, and you've always been very supportive of the police department. And I can't say that, that we haven't been treated well over the years, and that you've asked some difficult questions. You held us accountable. And I hope that, we maintain that accountability for you. And I know that the same standard is going to go forward. So I wish you all the best, and I can't thank you enough for making my job as easy as it was, and giving us all the equipment that we needed to provide some very good service to this community. So thank you all for your support and for everything that you do each and every day when you volunteer to be part of the finance committee, there's a lot that you do, and I think that until you get involved directly with the finance committee and work intimately with the members, that you can't really appreciate how much work you put in throughout the year to make sure that the money is well spent in our community. So thank you again for all of your support, and thank you for all your well wishes. And I hope to see you out there somewhere else.
Well, I hope we get a chance at some point to wish you good wishes in person, but we're not quite sure that date yet, but we hope that does come, Chief.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I hope the day comes. It'll be here soon, I hope.
I certainly hope so. But in the meantime, best of luck to you, and thank you so much for your service.
Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Congratulations, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, that's really about all I had for tonight, and it's about 9 o'clock. We don't have any minutes. Well, I think Joni did send them to me tonight. So
Sorry.
Sorry. It's not Joanne's fault. We're going to blame
No,
Joni.
it's not.
So, any old business?
Yes.
Okay, Kevin.
I just want to make sure, based on the question that I sent to you and Jim, over the course of the week, that you note in our report to the Finance Committee the change we're taking as an approach to funding contracts as opposed to what we've done in the past, in that we're pre-authorizing the approval of contracts rather than, and it's perfectly legal, perfectly fine, it's just a different way of doing it than we have in the past. And I just want to make sure that the town meeting voters and the taxpayers are aware of this change we're making, where we're not waiting till the contracts are agreed to and then providing the funding. We're providing the funding up front, and the contract will be taken care of.
So can I speak on that as well? I kind of want to piggyback because I actually wanted to bring this up. I went through all of the special town warrants, and we do in fact have a warrant on those, on the police and the contract. So I don't think it was any intention to just arbitrarily change the process. But, if this is the way that we've been funding the contract, and looking at last year's, by the way, it'll wipe out that $100K if it comes in anywhere close, because last year's warrant funded it for $145,000. So I was hoping that I could kind of persuade people, perhaps, and maybe even make a motion to remove that item in the line item budget and just go back to the warrant article and the way of funding it, because that's just, Kevin, you struck a chord with me, and so I did my diligence, I went through everything, and sure enough, that's how we've been doing it. So I don't think it was any intent to just, I think it was just maybe an oversight, and I certainly appreciate you bringing it up. I personally would like to go back to putting it on a warrant.
Madam Chair? The big difference, when you're looking at last year's warrant article, the police contract was at impasse for 2.5 years. So they didn't get a raise for 2.5 years. So that's why there's such a big number there, and that's why it was a separate warrant article, because the budget had already been crafted when the contract was settled. Here we have an opportunity to give the full impact of both the compensation study and whatever we agree to with the police department in the budget already, to raise and appropriate, make it part of the base budget, so we're not adding free cash to an already adopted budget, which skews the future tax rate. So here we're giving the community a completed budget with the impacts known. That's appropriate, that's more transparent, that's more everything. And the public in the town meeting doesn't necessarily approve the contract. They approve funding of the contract. And that money is in the town budget now.
I don't disagree with you, and I thought the answer from the town council was great. All I just wanted, it's a difference from past practices. That's all people should be made aware of. That in the past, we negotiated the contracts, and maybe you're correct, and we skewed the tax rate, but we negotiated the contracts and then funded the difference at a separate meeting afterward. This year, we're doing that differently, and that's all all I'm asking is that we inform the taxpayer and the town meeting attendee that that's what's happening.
One more comment, Madam Chair.
Yes,
Again,
Go ahead.
I would hope by the time we get to the end of this month or to town meeting, we have a settled contract, which would make that lump sum line item irrelevant.
Kathy? It's Mike.
Okay, oh, go ahead, Mike.
So as I hear this discussion, I hear two different things in here. One is, do we bring this forward as a warrant article and pay for it by free cash, or do we bring it as is currently proposed in this budget and treat it as a raise and appropriate and move it over? To me, that might be 6 of one, half dozen the other, or one leans the other way or another. But I don't see a big difference between the two. But I think Kevin's other point of, in the past, when we haven't settled these contracts, we haven't funded them. You've negotiated them subject to appropriation at town meeting, and then after you've negotiated a reasonable and fair contract, we've gone and funded it at town meeting and settled up. That's why I have a warrant article. So that's the, as he's saying in this case, that I think the difference is all those past warrant articles would have been, we settled the contract, we didn't have the funding in place, now we have to go get it. Whereas this time, you're basically having a pot of money, and I don't know if it helps or hurts your negotiating position of, well, you already got the money set aside, so I know how much you have to spend. So that's where I think the more finer issue is, fund this in advance, or fund it after it, or settle the contract subject to getting funded at a later town meeting.
Well, I don't know that they know the amount, they know that total amount, but some of that is also to be part of the personnel study allocated, and we don't have the allocations one way or the other. And I would point out that this is basically the way the school department does it all the time. They always have it already within their budget. I don't think I've ever seen them come back to a special town meeting to fund their contract. So we've it is a different way for us to be doing it, yes, but it's not without.
So Jeff can settle it and clean it up, then he can make a whole non-issue out of it
right,
by the end of the month.
That's true.
Can I ask a question of Jeff?
Sure.
Kathy, I'm sorry.
Go
This
ahead,
negotiation is for a contract of what duration, Jeff?
Again, I would rather not negotiate in public. I think that's bad faith. I would be happy to share when it's over, but I think negotiating public is bad faith on all parts.
Okay. Then let me ask another question that's already settled. What was the duration of the previous contract?
The last
How many years was it good for?
The current contract we're in expires June 30th, and there was impasse for 2.5 years. So actually, the agreement was for a 3-year contract, but it was retro 2 years. So we actually only enjoyed 1 year of a contract, which expires June 30th of this year.
Okay. So I look at what the current is right now, and I can just, off the top of my head, throw a number out and realize that the $100,000, if we're going to use some of that for the adjustments to some of the overhead salaries, the balance left after that wouldn't even come close to covering any type of contract for any type of duration, unless it was maybe a 1-year contract. I mean, it's not a lot of money. It's not enough. We're going to have to come back and do something more than this $100,000 down the road anyway.
Well,
you're only
just an observation.
The only contract year we could fund on a prospective basis would be the next fiscal year we're developing a budget for. We would never ask for multi-years going forward, so we're only looking to fund one budget year. Even if we came to a conclusion on a 3-year contract, we would only be able to ask for funding for the immediate next fiscal year. And that's all we're asking. That's all this is
But that's
intended to cover.
That's what the law allows, and then once you have funded that first year, you are obligated to fund however many subsequent years of the contract are. You only do it 1 year at a time. Any other old business?
Well, can I just go back to that, and I guess to make a clarification of so I understand, so Kevin wants to explain this new process for funding the contract, and I absolutely agree with him if we're going to continue to put this into the line item budget. I also just make sure that next year or 2 years from now or whatever, we don't go back to the same way. I mean, we can't. I don't want to have us just put it on a warrant or things change and we put it back in the budget. Like, if we're going to put it in the budget, then I guess we have to decide to do that going forward from now on, because it would just confuse the hell out of people if we just kept going back and forth to different processes. Do you follow me?
Well, I agree with that, and it would be great if we can all come to an agreement on a new collective bargaining agreement for all our unions by February 15. You know, sometimes that happens, sometimes that doesn't. We would do our best next year to settle the contract that is expiring next June early enough where we can include those changes in the budget you see, without having to assume a number and put it in the budget as an estimate. So that's always the goal, is to settle these things in time for budget development, but, you know, sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. I was hoping to have something done earlier, but the COVID crisis and the economic impacts therewith have made us kind of stop a lot of things, waiting to see how things flesh out. So again, we want to be in good faith. We wanted to make good decisions, so it has caused us to drag our feet on some things.
Yeah, and Jeff, I don't want you to think I'm saying there's anything, you know, bad faith or anything like that. All I just want is, you know, this is a different approach than we've done in the past, and let's just inform the people that we're changing our approach, and it may actually be a better one.
I fully understand. Thank you. Yep.
Any other old business? Any new business? I know that one thing Jim had brought up to me is that some Tuesdays going forward are available, I believe, but I don't know about the administration. I don't know if there's a desire to start meeting twice a week. I believe town meeting is going to be June 29th. Is that correct, Jeff?
That is the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen for Monday evening, yes.
Okay, so
Kathy, I have a question. I didn't know if you got new, but are we expecting a warrant? In the last we knew, there were 42 articles on the warrant. Is that still kind of true? And
Jeff?
The Board of Selectmen reviewed the warrants last night. Once we have once we have it prepared from their actions, I reviewed a draft this afternoon. Barbara's reviewing the draft. Once we get that, we'll get that to the next step, which is you all, I believe.
Right.
Going to Tuesday nights, I understand there's a desire to do that. One of the issues we're having is the only way to do the remote meetings right now is we can only do one at a time. So if planning board or conservation are meeting on that Tuesday, you know, we kind of need to reserve one meeting at a time.
I'm sorry, I thought conservation on Tuesday was in the afternoon, is that right? But perhaps I read that wrong.
Well, they start at 1, but they have 12 public hearings.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Kevin, are we going to come?
Well, I was just doing the quick calculation, right? So June 29th, 2 weeks for the voters to have the book, 2 weeks beforehand for you to get the book to the printer, you're at June 1st. So basically you have the month of April to finish the line item budget and do all of the warrants. So as many meetings would be probably helpful.
Yeah.
unless you want really long meetings on Thursday.
Not really, but, well, I guess we'll have to look at the schedules. It looks like there could be a conflict this Tuesday then, Jeff. So I'll look at the following Tuesday, and see what's available.
And Jeff, I guess, in just for your knowledge, and maybe it's not the way you want to do it, but in the past, each board, the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee, have done the warrant separately, and whatever changes the Board of Selectmen make along the way, we adjust, but at least it helps us move along instead of trying to cram 40-something articles into 2 weeks of meetings.
Okay.
So at this point, we're still working on the budget, so I think Jeff probably has time to go through it this year and get it to us.
Yeah, Barbara, hold on. Barbara, when can we are we ready to give them the warrants?
We should be able to give them to them before next Thursday, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
We just need to fine tune a couple things. If it helps to settle the nerves in any way regarding time constraints, the majority of the money articles are the standard articles from year to year. So, there's not a lot of articles independent or new other than the ones that go year to year. There are multiple articles from CPC, so that's probably a committee that you're going to want to have come before you to talk about those. But, and then there's several from the planning board. But yeah, I think we can get those to you for your meeting next week. So I would say you'll have everything you need by the time. I'm kind of looking at that next week you'll probably finish the line item budget. Would you agree, Kathy?
Perhaps. Close.
I have one question for you, Kathy, related to the line item budget then, too.
What's that?
In the past few years, you've invited the superintendent of schools and the deputy superintendent of finance to the meeting. Are you planning on doing that this year as well?
Yeah, I was going to have at least Deb Boyd.
Okay.
If she's available. I don't know what their schedules and meetings, but yeah. I will contact her.
It'd be great, so I can be prepared.
Okay. Well, no, I'll let you know probably by Monday who we'll have coming. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Sorry, Barbara.
That's all right. Okay. Any other new business? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Kevin.
Evan. And second, anybody?
Mike.
I'm sorry, I missed it. Karen. Okay. Roll call vote. Larry.
Maybe.
No, maybe. That is not an option. Yes or no?
Come back to me.
Jerry.
Yes, and I'll vote yes for Larry.
Good. Joni.
Yes.
I like your thinking there, Jared. Jim.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes, and I'd like to add a comment about the chief using the phrase many, 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 many years.
Yes. Karen.
Yes.
And Kathy, yes. So motion to adjourn passes 9-0 at 9:17. We'll see you next week. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Stay sane, too. Stay sane.
What's that? Oh, stay sane. Oh.